So let's do just a review.
I lost you. I lost you just now. Okay, you're
No,
back.
I'm back. All right,
Yeah.
so it started about 8 seconds in. All right, so let's do a bit of review because this is worthwhile.
Yes.
Almost everything that the Buddha teaches about suffering and no suffering and being in that third state, that noble third truth of this is freedom from suffering, is that this is right here, right now. And we're in this present moment. And as we do, and living in the senses, there are literally no possibility for problems. Problems have to be thought up. To think
Thought up
up,
or remembered.
we have to remember things, right?
Yeah.
And then we make plans for the future. This is the creation of a problem and the solution in the future. But if we would stop doing that and just be here now, there's no problems. This is it. There is no place to go until I think of some place to go. And if I don't think of any place to go, there's no place to go. Isn't that marvelous? I mean, that's such a beautiful teaching of the Buddha. That's the whole teaching, in fact. And so he is the one who is here now. And yet to describe this, it all has to be done in metaphor because the real stuff cannot be spoken directly. It's just not part of our language. Because very few people experience these kinds of things on a regular basis. They never built the language for it. So the common people, they don't have a clue. It's not part of common language. It only can be said within the Dhamma language, but then it's said again in metaphor. And so the Buddha called himself the Tathagata, which meant the one who has gone to thusness. That he's come out of the past, he's come out of the future, and he's living in this present moment. And we have to use, in fact, I use this present moment because that's the expression that Eckhart Tolle used. And that Ram Dass or Richard Albert would use the word be here now. But in the Pali, it would be ta-ta-ta, this is it. And this is all that there really is. Now, let's look at that in reference to reincarnation. If we're intending to stay out of the past like last week or 10 years ago, then why would we bother about what happened 300 years ago to somebody else? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And yet we can also look at it from the sense of, because history has been interesting for my whole life. And so I did ancient history from the Mediterranean aspect when I was younger. But now I've taken quite an interest in what happened in India and these environments during those and subsequent times, including Thai history and some of the stuff like that. So in that regard, I can also see a kind of manufactured self who is me that places me in this history places every time that I visit. In other words, when I imagine Lumpini, here's the issue of Lumpini. We knew about it, but we didn't have no clue about where it was until about 1986 or something like that. They dug up a pillar. That pillar that they dug up was from the Silk time. And it was clearly there, right in the Magadhi or the Pali language, what this place was and everything about it. Huge amount of literature. Since that time, only about 40 years now, there's an entire city that's been built up around that thing. With all kinds of ashrams and all kinds of places. It's a huge tourist trap. That's in fact the only thing it could possibly be, because it's not a holy site, not until 1986. Oh no, holy people, they want old holy sites. But the point that I'm making is that I describe this pillar that they dug up. You and I have an imagination of digging up a pillar. That is a way of thinking about reincarnation, because we reincarnated something that happened in, let us say, 290 BC or something like that.
Except for it's not actually physical, carnal. It's an imaginative of a carnation.
Exactly. It's
So,
imagination.
but yet it's the same. Is that what you're saying? Because in fact,
We get
that's what
attached to it.
we're
That's the
attached
whole
to it.
point. We
It's an
even make
image.
up stuff and then get attached to
Yeah,
it.
we've made this image, and now we think it's real, and that's the whole. And I think what you were trying to say earlier is that realizing that okay, we can use the imagination, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're not actually reincarnating what happened 300 years ago. You're you're creating that.
Reimagining it,
You're reimagining
recreating.
that. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we become emotionally attached to these memories.
Yeah.
And in fact, that to be here now is to drop all of the old past because we can't do anything about it anyway.
Yeah.
It's really not important, for instance, that I study history. It's just interesting to see the evolution for me of how the Dhamma was transmitted, how it has changed, how it became covered over with leaves, how it became two separate things, which would be the one number one, the Buddhist religion, which is worldwide and has millions and millions of followers, and then the second one, the more secretive one, is the supramundane Buddha Dhamma, the liberating stuff, the reality. And so all of the other stuff is basically magical and it's part of the world. It's the world of religion. In fact, Hinduism, if you want to use that word, or Brahmanism, or whatever it was that we can, isms that we can generate and manufacture in India, those people beat Buddhism into a religion, starting with Buddhaghosa and many others. So they've converted the liberating teachings of the Buddha that has absolutely nothing to do with religion into a religion. And they added the magic secret ingredient. You know what that magic secret ingredient is? Magic. And secret ingredients.
Hey, would you say, in terms of reincarnation, talking about this idea of reincarnation, in the suttas it says, one of the things, if one can realize that one who's realized dependent origination has also realized the Dhamma. And I'm wondering, it just came to me as you were talking, we go from craving to clinging, and then the clinging are thoughts about why we're craving, right? This is the clinging, basically. And then the habit of action, these habit patterns are these, this is a kind of reincarnation, right? This is a kind of, if I'm thinking about something and I'm here I go again, I'm reincarnating, I'm doing the same habit pattern over and over, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
here is where we come in with the Buddha back again and the use of language. The Buddha was a master thief of language. What do I mean by that? That means that he was masterful. He was masterful at changing the definitions of the words. And the words that he masterfully changed the definitions of were things like nibbana, which was an ordinary word until the Buddha got a hold of it. And what was the ordinary definition? The food nibbanas. The food cools after it's taken off the fire. We also use the word nibbana.
Coolness.
Coolness, exactly.
Coolness,
they also use it in the sense of an animal that's no longer wild, that is tamed or domesticated. Now look at both of those words and you'll say, wow, the Buddha was really smart with that one. Why? Because that's exactly what we're trying to do, is we're trying to domesticate the wild heart within. We're trying to tame the wild heart. In fact, taming and training are the same exact thing. A trained animal and a tamed animal are the same thing. Guess what? Humans are animals too. And we have to train ourselves out of our wild nature. So the nibbana of the animal and the nibbana of the human being is precisely exactly the same thing. And so that's the nibbana, the cooling off, the training, the taming, the cooling down of the domestication. Now, what does domestication mean? Isn't your domicile
Domicile,
your
to be
is your
home,
home?
live in the home. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
To come home.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, now we can see where these words come from. Other words he stole was the word Aryan. Hitler stole it too, but for a different purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. He misunderstood that a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he looked at it from racial,
Right.
but that was the original reason. That the Buddha was the one who hijacked it and turned it to just simply noble, in the sense of noble behavior. Now, in this regard,
is
this
this
is
from
all
Brahmacharya? Acharyas are from the word Arya. Is that right? Arya, noble one. Is that the word? Is that the word in the Pali or in
actually the word acharya is the word for teacher.
teacher? Oh, okay.
As opposed to Vihara, Brahma Vihara is the home of the gods. Brahmacharya is basically the teachings of the gods, and in this regard, the aloofness or the nobleness would exactly be the way that would be rephrased or metaphorized. In fact, brahmacharya is a metaphor.
Yeah.
Which is the same metaphor or a different metaphor for the same thing as the word Aryan or noble.
Yeah. I just want you to know I really appreciate your your emphasizing all these metaphors, and I have a quote for you that you might appreciate, and it's from Shakespeare, and he says, "Words are but reflections of reflections, therefore twice removed from reality," meaning the word is a reflection of the other reflection, and the first reflection was the thought, which is also not real, and it's trying to say something that we can't even speak of. That's the whole idea. So
exactly. And so in a conversation where one person says one thing, it's got to go through four reflections, two on the in and then two on the out.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing we do any kind of communicating at all, isn't it? It's sort of amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
in fact, that's a beautiful way of saying it, that the United States and England are separated by a common language.
Mm, mm.
Because we think if we know the definition of a word, that when I'm using that word, you're going to know the definition of that word.
Yeah.
And one of the most commonly misunderstood words in the English language is the word love. Because you can mean all. What does that mean?
Yeah.
The list must take, just definitions alone should take at least a couple of pages of a dictionary.
I would like to share with you what I think about that and hear what you think. And I do have a very simple definition for love in my experience, in the way I experience. And for me, when I experience love or metta, it means very simply, I really want you to be happy. It doesn't really mean
Okay.
anything more than that. It means, I really sincerely, deep in me, would like for you to be happy. Doesn't mean I'm going to do anything for you. Doesn't mean I'm going to help you. It's
I
just
actually understand precisely what
yeah,
you mean for your definition, but I challenge you to
yeah,
understand that
sure,
Donald Trump uses the word differently.
sure, yeah, 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 yeah. And do
And
you
in
have
fact,
when you say metta in your, I mean, what is that for you? I mean, what is it for you? Because I would really like to hear that from someone that is, like yourself. Because it is a word that's quite, that, and for me, that always fits. What I shared with you, how I feel about it, seems to always fit in this practice, in this philosophy, in my, when I'm sitting, the sensation comes when I really get in touch with that realization that, wow, that's really wonderful, that I really do have a mind that really does want others to be happy. I could have a mind that wants to kill others, which I do sometimes. But what I'm saying is, but my deep desire is that, when I'm able to be still and really see is that. So how is that for you?
You might possibly think it would be conceivable that might be the motivations behind why we're on internet Skype together right now.
The motivation is what? I missed what you're saying, trying to tell me.
The motivation to teach the Dhamma.
Yeah, it's love. You want me to be happy. I mean, you want me to be happy, clearly. I'd like you also to be happy. Yeah, so yeah. And I mean,
with this distinction. The distinction is no, I don't want you to be happy at all, but I expect you to be.
But I don't understand. I don't understand.
I see expect means I can see into the future. It's not hope. Expect is not hope. It's not wish. It's not want. It's an expectation.
Yeah. A reasonable expectation. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, let's put it into the sense of a demand or an invitation or something in that regard.
Yeah.
Invitation more than a demand.
And so in
the beginning.
Yeah. So yeah, because I guess, as you bring your students along, there comes a point where you have to say, look, man, I mean, I'm just trying to follow your progression of invitation and demand. You got to finally at some point say, look, that's what it's all about. There is no more, and get on with it, right? You got to drop all the other pieces of it, right? I suppose. I'm not.
Let's use these several words at this point.
Okay.
Because this is where we're going. Let's use the word dedication. And we're going to use a different word because your Goenka experience, we're going to use the word determination. That in fact, Goenka was spot on with that word.
Mm-hmm.
Determination. And he used it in several regards, but one of them was in the sense of the strong determination sitting that I'm going to sit this period of time of nearly an hour. Yep. And I'm not going to open my legs. I'm not going to open my eyes. I'm not going to open my hands. I'm going to sit here still, and I'm going to make sure that I maintain this posture no matter what.
Yeah, I did, Tom. Yeah.
That's the determination. When you take that determination to do that 1 hour of sitting into your whole life, yeah, now you're seeing where we're coming from. That determination, all right? There is another quality, though, that is not in the word determination, that is actually in the suttas, and that is eagerness, enthusiasm. That's another word that some people would use and call it love, the love of the Dhamma. No, I do not love the Dhamma. But I have great enthusiasm for the Dhamma. Mm-hmm. Very enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The term in theos, there's I looked at something to the effect of, in Christian terminology, is the God within, I think, is what that translates to. In theos, no, that's inspiration. Sorry. Enthusiasm, yeah. And it is born of curiosity, too, right? I mean, curiosity is a
that's
close
the basis
cousin.
of it.
Yeah, real cousin, and it gets, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Happily wanting to know, which is different than confusion. We start out confused, but when you add joy to confusion, it becomes investigation, and with the determination, then it becomes enthusiastic.
I think.
And then when you add one more ingredient, and that is that this is like the cherry on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, what I'm talking about is stuff that's in Sutta number 48, the Kasambian Sutta, and I'm actually talking about step 6 of the 6th knowledge and the 7th knowledge right now. So just to give you Sutta reference.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
not going to write it down because I'm going to read this. Yeah. I'll reread.
Okay, well, it'll be on the recording anyway, if anybody wants to look. Bhikkhu Bodhi translates the word into eager, but I use the word enthusiastic, but you can see that they're in fact the same quality that we're looking for. So that's like the icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
What is the icing? Well, what is the cake itself? The cake itself is the dedication and the knowledge of the full-on knowledge, without a doubt, of solid understanding of what is and what is not the noble path. And then the determination, and then the eagerness is like the icing on the cake, and then the decorations on top of the cake, or the cherry on top, is what they call delight. Absolutely delighted with the Dhamma. We are so absolutely sure of it that we know it completely. We've just got it down absolutely pat, without a doubt. And it's like, it's like dancing. It's really living in the Leela. And not only that, but then if you're of any state of understanding about the 16 steps of insight, that was from the Visuddhimagga through the Mahasi and the Ledi Sayadaw into modern times, that last step, 16, is now the review of the actual defilements, because this 16 steps to insight is only the state of Sotapanna. But the fruit of the Sotapanna is absolutely overjoyed delight with the Dhamma.
Yeah, I'm pretty confused about those 16 steps, is the truth of the matter. Yeah.
Well, the problem with them is that the people think on the 16 steps that they have to do step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3 and then step 4, and it's not like that. Just like Anapanasati is not to be practiced that way.
It's to be brought all in together, but I guess in the beginning you have to learn.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so you have to learn somehow, right? So I don't. Yeah.
Imagine a buffet.
I would appreciate any kind of references you can give me that I could have a simpler take on.
Take this reference.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Imagine this. This is a brand new one. I never ever thought about this. You've ever been to a buffet?
Sure.
Okay. You know that the food is lined up.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll have this section, it's got jellos, and this section's got salads, and this section's got corn and peas and potatoes and gravies, and the next section has fish and meat and all of that kind of stuff, if they're arranged that way. Some of them are not. But when you go down through the line, you go down in order to see what's there. Sometimes, and it doesn't fit very well, oh, I actually do want some jello. So I've got to go back around and come this way. All right. But when you take that plate and you sit it down in front of you, do you continue to eat it in the order that you picked it up?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, well, that's how we're supposed to look at Anapanasati. We think that we're only going to, the way that many Westerners think of it is that they're going to be eating all of their meal as they're walking down the parade. Yeah. As they're going down the line, when you get peas, you got to eat all the peas right now. And then you go down and you look at the potatoes and you eat all the potatoes you want right now. And that's the way that they practice Anapanasati with Goenka method.
Yeah. It's true. That is how. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
And
so we need to learn enough about it so that we know what's on that smorgasbord. So it's possibly a good idea to not stand in line, but to go and learn what's there. And then when we go pick and choose what we want. And then we come to the table and we eat it in whatever order we think of that's next. In fact, that's the right way to do it. The Buddha talks about it.
Put it in a blender and make a soup out of it. What about that idea?
Well, that's what you're going to do that anyway. That's what we're doing right here. That's the joy of eating. Yeah, drop it up in the blender, precisely. So if we know all of the steps of Anapanasati in advance, then we can practice them one by one as they occur. That's the language of the Buddha, that you take things as they come up. It very much is like whack-a-mole. You know that game of whack-a-mole?
Yeah.
So people they get concentrated on one, saying, all right, if that guy comes up,
Yeah.
I'm going to hit him. And
Yeah.
then they're not looking at all the other moles coming up.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
you got to have a generalized field of view so that you can stay open so that any mole that comes up, you can whack him. Well, we do that also with feelings and with unappropriate thoughts, the hindrances. As they come up like moles. They come up on their own. We don't know what it's going to be.
And so that's
We
the
don't know what
teaching.
the future is going to be.
So you're saying that, so the teaching is, and I remember one of the suttas that you gave me to read was about what is a good student. Or no, that was Villaramamsi, and that was it. Just what you just said. You memorization. He's for memorization. The Buddha's for. He says it's the best way to learn. So to memorize those 16 steps is a good start. Yeah, yeah. Which is.
But you don't practice them in the order that you learn them.
Yeah.
And Bhikkhu Buddhadasa was very clear about that on some of the things. For instance, in step 10 of Anapanasati and gladdening the mind, this is like on page 200 and something. It says, and you need to do this right from the very beginning. This is the first thing that you do. and yet it's on page like 215, 217 of this book. It's really amazing like that. And I said, oh, no wonder students practice it wrong.
Yeah. I think I really have realized, how many years I had this magical thinking about if I do this mechanical technique, something will just magically happen. I'll just keep whacking this one mole, and that one mole was watching the breath, or one mole, whatever that one piece was, and then something magically will happen, and my mind will be changed. And I never learned how to contemplate I never learned how to do that. And that's where I was struggling when I was reading those. It's like, okay, wait, I'm meditating. No, I'm contemplating. No, I'm thinking about this. No, and I got very agitated. Actually, is what happened. And
that's wrong effort. Exactly. That's why. And guess what? That's very typical.
I see.
Every student that I've ever had, including myself, when I was very new at it, that was the mistake we all make. I think that it partly comes out of Western culture.
How do you overcome that? I mean, is there a mind?
You remember it when it comes up and you stop doing it. That's
no magic answer.
No magic answers. It's all about a matter of developing the skill of sati. That's the main skill to be developed, but all of them are skills. Here's something that's very interesting. If you read carefully the Anapanasati Sutta, you'll see that there are only 2 of those 16 steps that the operative verb is understand. The other 14 is the operative verb is training. The actual words that the Mahayanas eventually grabbed onto of skillful means, this is it. Skill development. You got to develop those skills. You got to practice. And if you practice well, you enjoy practicing. And if you don't practice well, then you hate it and you'll quit.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's why almost everybody who practices meditation, they quit, because they don't get the juice out of it right from the get-go, which is exactly the instructions the Buddha gives.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he gives those on step 10, and the students are still struggling through step 3, and when they get to step 4, that's when it really falls apart. In fact, I've seen guys give themselves knee pain, can't sit anymore. Dhammarato is a good example of that. You'll never see him sitting the way that the monks sit. He's always in a chair.
Yeah.
I'm always in a chair too, but it's not because I screwed my legs up. It's that I don't give a flying rip about sitting anymore.
Good.
But I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can even still get into. I can still even get into.
You don't keep carrying the raft on your head when you get across the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but what I do have is I have a particular strange knowledge that's very rare in the world. And it's not just the technique of knowing how to build rafts, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Asia who know how to teach other people how to build rafts. The problem is how to teach Westerners how to build rafts. That's what's missing.
And the biggest obstacle to that is this idea that they have to effort so hard. Is that the biggest
That's
obstacle?
that's
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, that they have to, the I, there's an I, they haven't realized the Natha, so this I keeps trying to realize coolness, and it's the fire. The I is the fire. And it's trying to realize coolness, right? Is that a good
Exactly,
analogy?
exactly. When
Yeah.
coolness is just there, just stop trying. I mean, just and there it is.
See, I intellectually hear what you say, but I can't do that, what you're
Sure, you
saying. I
can.
get
Sure,
moments, don't get me
you.
wrong, I get moments, but most of the time I'm trying to make it happen. That's the truth of it. I intellectually understand that it's an effortless observation and it's an effortless practice. I just
Here's
can't
a.
help myself, I'm telling you. I don't know.
Well, let's go in this direction.
Yeah.
Within the Anapanasati Sutta, right in the very introduction, one of the values of the Anapanasati practice is to build Iddhiyapada. Now, Iddhya is different than Iddhiyapada. First off, let me talk about it. The word pada is like pedestal or base, and so they're talking about the bases of power. The bases of power are those very four things we've already been talking about in the sense of investigation, sati, seeing what's going on, having right attitude. These are the things that develop this new skill we're talking about, which is in the Pali word means it is wrongly translated into English as the word power. But think about it because it's not 100% wrong, it's just a little bit off, and we'll play with it. Meanwhile, in magical Buddhism and in Hinduism, or all of the things they do in India, they use the word siddhi as opposed to iti. And the siddhi is then now magical powers. And you've heard of all the magical powers.
Yeah.
By one becomes many, many becomes one, driving into and swimming in the ground, walking on water, walking through walls, all of that
Yeah.
kind of magical stuff.
Yeah.
Clairvoyance, clairaudience, those are magical powers, siddhis. This is not what the Buddha teaches. He teaches the real power. What are the real powers? Let us put the number one item on the list as the feeling of success. The feeling of, I can do this. Let us call it the lion's cub right from the very beginning. That feeling of success. The next one, satisfaction. And satisfaction comes mainly from success, that we really become satisfied after we're successful at doing something. The next one has to do then with security and safety and contentment. But in fact, another way of looking at it is, and this is actually quite valuable, to think of it as satiation. Do you know the word satiation?
Yes.
It means that not only am I content with how much I've eaten, I do not want anything more. I am absolutely full up right now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Enough already.
Mm-hmm.
That's a power.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real power. Go ahead.
Is this related to that story about I don't know where this story's from. It's some Buddhist story about the king that needs to move a treasure, so he hires a guard he trusts, and his job is to move the treasure from the one palace to the old palace, and he does all that work all day, and at the end of the day, the king promised him all of these lands and all of this money if he does this job successfully. And at the end of the day, he's now got all his. Do you know this story I'm talking about?
No, but I think I know the end of it. The king doesn't pay.
No, the end of it is he's at the end of the. It's talking about evidently the story. I think, as I recall it, they were trying to teach about worldly pleasures that are also wholesome. These are worldly pleasures, but they're also wholesome, and this is one of them. Doing a good job. Well, you've done what you did. And you're feeling secure. All of these and successful, and you've got everything you need. Your family's taken care of. You're sated. It covers all of those bases. This story, I think, covers all of those bases. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was asking.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that story. But here's the final one, or the top one. In fact, this is the most important one, and that is the feeling of wealth.
Wealth, yeah, that fits in the story too. Yeah, okay, yeah. Wealth.
Yes, the feeling of wealth. But it starts with, and the main one that we need to work with and develop is the feeling of success. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa talks about that success will lead to happiness. Now, here's the next point. Now that we know that we're going to practice all of Anapanasati, and we're going to practice it when it's needed, here's a question for you. Step 6 of Anapanasati, no, step 5, is rapture, or piti in Pali. Do you know what that means?
Really happy? Really happy? I don't know.
All right, now you're getting down to it. The first time you're guessing, but when you're guessing, you're saying no to me, and now you're being, and the answer is you don't know. All right. So here's the way that the Bhikkhu Buddhadasa points out to this, but it's only a little bit in several different books I've read on his Anapanasati, but this is what he's getting at. And this is what the Buddha meant by it. And this is why all the Westerners miss out on the meaning of it. But the Asians, they got it. They know what it is. And that is the feeling that we are all looking for in our lives. We're looking for high points. We're looking for big wins. For instance, why does a runner go to the Olympics and run the 100-yard dash? Why would he do such a thing?
I can only guess. I'm going to speculate. Is that what you want?
Yes.
So I'm speculating that he wants the feeling of winning and the adulation of his fellows, the appreciation of his fellows, and the feeling of accomplishment and this knowing the strength of his body, those kinds of things. So that's what I'm.
Exactly. And so now you can imagine this guy who's done that training and is running this race, and now just as he gets to the finish line, he recognizes that he's way ahead of everybody else and he's going to win this race. So what part of his body is going to cross the finish line first?
They lead with their head?
No, in this case, because he's already won the race, he's going to hit that ribbon with his chest.
Yeah, okay.
You get my why? Yeah. Because his arms are already in the air. If he was running,
He's rapturous.
He's rapturous. Yes, that's the whole point. That's when they throw their arms in the air. That's what happens at stadiums.
Wow, that's a good
when the touchdown happens. That's the spiking of the ball. That's the we win. That's what everybody's looking for, and the Buddha says develop that feeling in meditation. That's a skill to be developed. Now, how the heck do we do that? And what's the point? Well, one of the things that we know is this rapture is actually a factor of first jhana. And if we don't develop this rapture, we don't have first jhana. It's a jhana factor. What is that first jhana factor for rapture? Is the success that I can clean that mind out. And I know I can do that. Yeehaw! I can do this meditation. So when the student gets to the point of recognizing, and this is the first knowledge of the ones that I've been talking about in Sutta 48, The first knowledge is no matter how obstructed the mind is, the student knows that he can take his mind out of it and come back to this present moment, no matter how obstructed the mind is. Which basically what we mean in the West is not how much it is intensely, but how quickly that one hindrance keeps coming back. We throw it out, and it comes back. We throw it out, it comes back, and we say, this is hard. Oh, no, it's fun. Why? Because we're playing whack-a-mole. Every time that mole comes up, we're going to whack it. And so we begin to enjoy it because we are champions of meditation. This is the rapture. We can do this.
And there's a knowing you're not going to be overcome. You're going to be able, you can run the race.
Is the eradication, this process is now the eradication of the doubt. So doubt comes in two forms, and it comes in two forms as hindrances, but it also has to do with a deep insecurity. But it arises in two forms. The first form that people have to deal with, and this is important because most people never deal with this, and it can be expressed in the metaphor of, who the fuck did this? Or whose mess is this anyway? In other words, it's looking for blame. It's looking for the outside world. It's looking for a solution. This part of the mind actually does see dukkha, but he doesn't see the source of dukkha. So he's looking for the source of dukkha. So we look to God. We look to Jesus for our Savior. We look to Mommy to feed us. We look to the government for whatever. Depends upon who you are as to what you want from the government. But everybody wants something from the government. Mm-hmm. We want. In fact, there's 4 of them. I call it the GREB. Government, religion, education, and business. And they're all not conspiring with each other, but within each group they're conspiring to keep everyone dependent upon them. They want society to be victims. And guess what? Everybody, including the ones who want everybody to be victims, are also victims. In fact, the people who are the most victimized are the ones who are the most wealthy.
Yeah, they have to keep the show running. Because they have to work to keep the show going. Yeah. It's
oh, do work. They? Oh, it's always, the big fortunes are always a house of cards.
Yeah. Advertising, big deal. Lots of money. Every day you got to show that advertising. Every day. You got to remind them. Yeah. Every day.
Every day. Over and over and over again. Yeah. And not only that, but the guy who is looking for his rapture, let us say that he was able to get a big contract or steal a lot of money, and he felt really good for a while, and he spent it all, or whatever, but he no longer feels the way he did, and he wants to feel that way again. So he says, I got to go do something to get that money. So he starts to steal again, and then he gets the money, and he feels rapturous again. Well, after he does that, he winds up being, a hedge fund manager or something like that, so he can try to get that feeling every day. But it doesn't come every day. It's got to be a big win in order for him to feel a really big good. Where with us meditators, we start with the little stuff and let it build. Because every time we do this, we say, wait a minute, I'm doing something now that is really, really remarkable. The path of the Buddha and those who tread the path are known throughout humanity for all these centuries as being the very, very best of humanity. Noble. People who are free from conflict of interest. They don't hurt people. They do a marvelous job at living their lives. This is the top of humanity. And this is what you're actually developing. And so this is where we get the big win out of it, is because we do finally recognize how valuable this is, how important this is, how unique it is, and how marvelous it is. This is the top of humanity. And this is where we're going to. And the Buddha has already talked about that the only difference between he and any of the arahats, by the thousands in his lifetime, the only difference is that he found the path. But treading the path becomes the path. The freedom is the same everywhere. Like the ocean. Though many, many different rivers run into the ocean. Ocean water tastes basically the same everywhere in the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You may not like the taste of it, but it's the same taste. That's the quality that we're looking at.
Yes. Yes.
So this is the highest quality of humanity. If this is what we're going for, this is better than the Olympics. How many Olympics stars do we have? I mean, there is so big a hall of fame of people who have run the 100-yard dash in the Olympics that we don't ever know how many there are.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but look how many different gold medals there are. And it doesn't matter whether it's a 100-yard dash. It's, they have, 1,000 different competitions. So there's 100 or 1,000 different gold medals every year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's huge numbers of gold. They're almost meaningless to get a gold medal from the Olympics. How about being president of the United States? Is that the highest there is? Doesn't look like it anymore.
Not anymore. Used to be.
So, that was when the president would be the most noble person that was around. And that's how the U.S. got started, was because that's everything that we know about George Washington, is what a high-quality human being he was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He really cared about people.
Mm-hmm.
He was really dedicated to get it done. But he was also kind of ignorant in the way of keeping slaves, and he also he had two major crops. You know what they were?
One was probably tobacco. I don't know.
Yes, that's right. The other one was, guess what? Gotcha. Marijuana.
Gotcha. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was a major crop way back when.
Yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
It may be again soon.
It is already done. It's already happening, yeah. It's a major crop in here where I live, for sure, yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Say, I got an early morning tomorrow. I'm at the center and I'm serving. Can you give
okay.
me
By the way, the very thing that I wanted to get with you, I have not yet done.
Oh, I'm just happy to hear that. Yeah, sure.
Okay, and why don't we schedule it for another time?
Tomorrow? Because I'm going into meditation. How about tomorrow? Is this same time okay, or?
This is the way that I work it. Is that if you call when you want, and okay, I'll answer if I can.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna call tomorrow, and I'll try to call. I'll start it probably.
Who knows what tomorrow is going to be? And if I make a plan with you, then we'll both have anxiety about it.
Okay, that's right. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I'll do my best to connect with you tomorrow.
All right. We'll make sure that we're talking about now that you've got the idea that you need to develop that feeling of I can do this, I can win, I'm doing the very best that there is to do, and let that rapture, let that pity grow, so that you really do feel like the lion, the one who really wins. That's what's missing in the West.
Because of all
right
the doubt.
there in the Suti. Huh?
Because of so much doubt of what the effort. How do I do this? How do I?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where it's
Which
from,
leads to the second kind of doubt, and that is, because we just talked about the first kind of doubt, is whose mess is this? The second one is, after we figure out it's my mess, now the question comes is, am I up to the job?
Yeah.
And that's the process as you're going through right now, is to determine for yourself that you can do this. Yeah. And this is the best thing that you could ever possibly do.
Yeah. I get moments of that where I'm very clear
not doing moment, train for it. Go into the gym of your mind and say, we can do this, we can do this.
All right. Okay. And so literally, on how to do that, just, be confident. That's the thing, right? To tell some fellow, look, just know you can do this, that's full of doubt. It's not very clear instruction. You know what I'm saying?
Other than you have to keep practicing this over and over again. Every time you do see the mind wandering away, you say, I caught you. I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Until you come to that state that no matter how many times those thoughts keep coming back, you can still keep chasing them right back out.
Right. Yeah. And get
That's
somewhere.
the first
And
knowledge that it's
I'm getting
noble.
somewhere. I'm not just doing it for nothing, right? That's sort of how that's where I got, right? That's where I
That's
got.
right, right, right. Now
I'm
you
just doing
recognize,
this,
oh,
but
I'm not
nothing's really.
doing this for nothing. I'm doing this because this stuff is really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. For and where I got was and was just really about to leave. I really was. I got to this place where I'm doing this. Okay, I can do this, but I'm just still agitated, frustrated, and tense, and I've been doing this for years. And what for, right? It was sort of it was nothing happening. I wasn't having a. It is true. I mean, I was becoming a. It's true. I was becoming a kinder person. There's no doubt about that in my relationship. But inside, I still had so much tension and anxiety, and yeah, the lesson just this past year when I've really tried to find my own way and turn to this method has a softer way of being as things shifted. But yeah, okay, I can be.
Great, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've got no trouble with the way that Wheeler Moramsi teaches, not now.
I'm
But I've
glad.
known him for a long time.
I'm re-
A
I'm
long
really
time.
I'm really glad to hear that because I wasn't really sure about that until just this moment. I didn't really know that.
Oh no, he teaches a much softer, better, and more knowledgeable way. He's changed over the years.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad you
Well,
feel
that's
that.
what you would expect from a monk, would now, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, yeah, you really would, right? At this, it really, he really resonates with me, really does. Yeah. So, and thank you so much for your time. I just so am so grateful, and thank you very much. And I'll try giving a call tomorrow,
Okay.
I will. I do hope we connect. And if I don't get you tomorrow, which is Monday, I'll call again Tuesday and the window will be like probably.
I'm not going to remember this.
Okay. Uh, have the best day ever.
You are a winner. You are a lion. You can do this. And it's the absolute best thing that you could ever do for yourself. So be really happy about what's happening for you.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much. Peace to you. Bye bye.
Bye.